Assalamu alaikum. I'm here with another board game review, and today I'll be telling you that why you should play Marvel United. Now, Marvel United was a big Kickstarter for Simon, and I'm just going to discuss the base game for this one, which is the retail version. And for most of the people, this is what you're going to find in the market. And once you do find it interesting, you might be able to expand a lot on this based upon all the expansions that are going to be available. Why I'm going to do the review for this one? Because this is an ongoing series for Simon. So previously they started with Marvel United, but then the next year they released Marvel X-Men United. Then now this year they are in 2023 they are going to release the Marvel United Multiverse. So it's an ongoing series, but the core mechanism of the game is going to remain the same, even though additional things get added over time as well. So let's get to the table and let me explain you how the simple co-op game works, which is going to have chibi figures for superheroes, but the gameplay is very similar to what you can think of games like Pandemic, where threats are increasing in different locations and you have to keep them under control until you are able to complete the overall objective, which in this one is going to be beat one of the supervillains. So come, let's closer and let me show you how the game works. This is how the boot setup for Marvel United is going to look like. You will have 6 locations which are preferably set up in a circular fashion depending on your table space as well, and you're going to play with the heroes. You can pick any heroes. So for example, right now I'm selected Captain America and Hulk to start with, so I'll be picking up their specialized deck, shuffling them up, and similarly there is going to be a deck for the villain. So this time the selected villain is Red Skull. You are going to have a dashboard for the villain, which is going to tell its own special abilities, what does it do when it attacks, what it is going to do if there is an overflow. Overflow is a condition just like in Pandemic, when there is kind of a like epidemic that you cannot place any more cubes, something happens. In this case, if you are unable to place any more thugs in a location or any more helpless bystanders in a location, the civilians which have been distressed, civilians under distress, so then an overflow happens, so something bad is going to happen. And again, based upon each villain, that's going to change. So for each villain there is going to be a separate dashboard with each unique abilities. The other unique thing is going to be, of course, their agenda. Every enemy is going to come, or supervillain is going to come with their own agenda, that how they want to beat the villains or what agenda they want to achieve and how they will succeed. In case the heroes are unable to beat the villain, then there is a way that the villains are able to achieve their agenda and win the game. So that's how the villains are going to act, and each villain is going to come with their own deck of cards, their own threat cards. And what these threat cards are going to do is, so once you have randomly selected some location or even prefer to select some location, the game does come with some 2 additional locations, so you can always shuffle and select which locations are going to come. Each location is going to give you a special ability once you have cleared that area from a threat. Now these threats come as a modular part of the villain as well. So the villain is bringing their own agenda, their own abilities, as well as their own threat cards. So each location, how you're going to clear a threat from a location is going to be different in every game depending on which villain you use. These threat cards are these cards which are placed on top of the special ability of the location. So currently the special ability is inactive because it's under threat. Once you clear that threat, we'll talk about how to clearing the threat, then you will be able to remove the threat and be able to use the special ability of the location. So that's one of the subplots that you can focus on how you're going to achieve it. Overall, what you're going to do is, there are these 3 main threats that you are going to have to resolve. At least 2 of them are mandatory and you can resolve any of them. First of all is the clear threats, that any out of these 6 locations clear threats from any 4 locations. So you can see 4 spots here, and each area under threat has this small skull token, which is the threat token. So if you clear an area of the threat, you are going to place its token over here, which indicates you are 1/4 way from completing that threat. Once something is cleared of the threat area, this card will be removed and something will be unlocked. Similarly, the other thing is defeating the thugs, these minions. This boss is going to be in it's invulnerable. You cannot beat it, you cannot defeat it until at least 2 of these threats are down. So you clear the threats or missions are done. So other thing is defeating its henchmen. So if you defeat the henchmen, which are the thugs, enough of them, which is 9, then you are able to do it. Or you can rescue civilians. So if you can rescue 9 of the civilians, that's also one of the objectives. So 2 are mandatory. Once you complete any of the 2, you are going to be able to defeat Red Skull. But if you are able to complete the third one, you might be wondering, then why ever complete the third one? If you complete the third one, it's going to give you a bonus. And now let's come to the actual game of how you're going to play the game. So even though the setup looks a little bit daunting, but the actual game is actually pretty simple what you're going to do on your turn. So let's say it was Captain America's turn. They are going to get a handful of cards, and from those cards they are going to select which card they are going to play, and they will be selecting based upon the location that they are in, which card might be most appropriate to play. So for example, each card is going to have a picture, which it doesn't really matter. You are interested in the information which is at the bottom of the card. So in this case, playing this card is going to give you 2 stars ability, that is going to let you complete 2 of the objectives. Where those stars are going to be helpful, what kind of symbols are going to be there? There are going to be either stars, there is going to be a move action, there is going to be a punch action. So these are the main symbols available on the cards, the stars and the punches and the wilds. What these symbols are used for? Well, the move is very simple. It lets you move from one adjacent location to any other adjacent location. So you can move to any one adjacent location in either clockwise or counterclockwise direction. That's up to you. The punch is able to let you punch a thug or give 1 damage to one of the henchmen or the thugs. So the henchmen, which are here, some of the villains threats are that they have a henchman. So for example, Red Skull has Crossbones as a henchman here, and he has his own health, which is shown by these tokens on top of him. So you can punch him to reduce his health by 1. That's one of the ways you can remove this threat. Once all the health is gone, this henchman will be away, this card will be removed, and you will have cleared the threat of this area. The other can be that you have to complete the objectives, which are by these stars, and majority of the objectives are having 3 stars, which is going to fail the objective that the villain wants to succeed in that area. So if you are able to play these stars, what you will be doing is actually taking these star tokens, if you play this card, and placing star tokens over here to show that you have completed 2 stars out of the required 3 stars. Any other player in the future or yourself in the future can play another card to complete that additional star, and that threat will be removed. So that's how you will be removing the threats. Now, what does happen if you don't remove those threats? Again, these threats are going to become more and more difficult or keep making your game play difficult. So for example, this one, if at any time Red Skull comes on this location, it is going to tell on the card what's going to happen. So for example, it says discard all the thugs and civilians from this location and advance the fear track by the number of tokens discarded. So if we were unable to defeat the thugs and the villains, they will all be discarded if Red Skull comes in this way, and this is the fear track which will get increased by, so for example 3, in this case 3 tokens, the fear track will be increased by 3. And overall the agenda of the Red Skull is that he wants to increase the fear of Red Skull in the city by 20 points. If he is able to achieve that agenda, then irrespective what the condition of the health of Red Skull or the city was, heroes will immediately fail. So Each card is going to have in this way different kind of abilities, things, bad things which are going to happen to heroes. If the heroes were over here and the villain activates, then the henchman is going to punch those heroes as well. So that's also bad. We lose health by standing here next to a henchman when the villain activates. So bad things can happen to us when villain activates. So once you receive the cards, you are going to have a look at it and then decide what's going to be the best action that you want to do now. The last symbol is this symbol, which is going to show a yellow, green and red box, which is actually a wild symbol. So here, this is a clear token of that symbol. This is a wild symbol. When you play a wild card, then that means you can take any action that you want. So if it has two wilds, you can do any of the actions that you want. So in this way, you will be picking up your handful of cards, and from your drawn hand, you will be picking up what action you want to do. So for example, in this turn, I decided that we started here, I'm going to put 2 stars. Once my turn ends, before you take the action, you will always draw 1 new card, which is the replacement card. They will go in your hand and then you play a card. So that will be the end of my turn. It's very simple turns that you're going to take only one action based upon the card that you have played. Then the next hero goes. The first turn might seem slightly underpowered, but the cooperative action in this one actually comes through other heroes. So now the Hulk started with 3 cards as well, and of course before they do their turn, they are going to pick up 1 more card, and he's going to have some options available as well. Now the cooperative action of this game is going to come into place. Now my plan is that I'm going to move and also complete an objective as well. So maybe I'm going to play this. But the beauty of this game is that if you see the arrows, so the arrows are connecting, which means that not only the Hulk is going to take these actions, but also the actions which were done by the previous hero, one previous hero. So he is going to actually have 2 stars plus 1 movement and a punch. So what I'm going to do is place 1 star over here. The other star, even if I move, the other star is lost because this objective is now complete. This threat is done. Then my Hulk is going to move. So for example, I moved over here and then I'm going to punch someone. So let's say I punch this henchman, or if I think this is getting over flooded, then I can punch a thug and the thug gets removed from here. These thugs and civilians, each location is going to give you a setup. There is a printed light colored picture which tells you how to populate them at the start of the game. And that's the end of my turn. Then Captain America is going to go again. They will pick up their previous cards as well as drawing a new card and then selecting which card is going to be useful for them. But this time now you will be able to see a special power which is shown for this location. So for example, we are in the Stark Lab. You may swap 1 card from your hand with 1 card in the storyline. This is now becoming a storyline. So what we can do is also take an action, whichever hero ends their turn here, they can swap one of their cards. So for example, this card gives me 1 star, or this card gives me 1 movement only. Instead of this 1 movement, I may want to just swap this with the card, if I ended my turn here, with the card which gives me 2 stars. So those kind of trades can be made here if I ended my turn here. So I'll be looking at my cards here. Let's take leadership as an example because I want to show how this one works. So each hero is going to have, other than the very simple actions, they are going to have some special cards as well, which is this example that Captain America gives other inspiration to work more and more as well, rather than doing it himself. So for example, the Captain America is going to go next. He's going to just move. But not only is he going to move, He is going to also use the action abilities which were on the previous one, which means he's going to move once more. So maybe I would prefer to go on this side, one, and then all the way over here. So he moves twice and then he punches. So maybe this time he wants to hit this henchman, which is Madam Hydra. So this health goes away. Then this leadership ability says give a wild token to another player. So I'm going to give this wild token to Hulk. So Hulk in any future turn not only has his cards but has this token in his pool which he can use on any turn. So in any turn, so for example, he was desperately needing a punch action to finish a henchman, he might be able to use this wild as a punch. Maybe he's just unable to move one more space to reach some required location. He might use this wild as a move action as well. So wilds are very useful. And Captain America is very good at giving these kind of wild to other characters. Hulk is very good at doing Hulk smash, which clears up a location of all the thugs and civilians and empty out so it doesn't cause overflow. So these kind of slight thematic, even though the normal decks are very similar, but slight thematic differences are going to be there in each of the hero decks, that what they are going to do. Now once 3 times the heroes have taken action, the villain turn is going to come. So after every 3 turns, the villain is going to take any action. So in this case, what the villain is going to do, he is going to move one space and then the villain is going to perform a BAM. And the arrow is going to tell which direction it is going to go. So it is going in the clockwise. So he comes here. Oh, unluckily, it's the same location as Captain America. So let me place them down so that you can see them more clearly. So it's the same location as Captain America and he's going to perform a BAM action. So the BAM action says deal 1 damage to each hero in Red Skull's location and increase the fear track by 2. So first of all, when it says to deal 1 damage to the hero, your damage is shown by the number of cards that you're holding in your hand. So each hero has 3 cards to start with ideally, and 1 damage means that I have to now discard one of these cards to the bottom of my draw pile. So now I only have the option of 2 cards, which means that next time when I draw, I will have, instead of 4, I will have the option of only 3. Slowly my hand of cards is going to get depleted in this way, and if all the cards are going to get depleted, then the hero will be knocked down. I will get to refresh all the hands, but another additional BAM is going to happen. So it can be bad for the agenda or the other heroes if one of the heroes is completely knocked out. So the fear track is going to increase by 2, which is the BAM action written for this one. Plus, what does it say? The BAM action is also on the henchman, which means every location which has the word BAM is going to activate as well. So this henchman is going to deal 1 damage to each hero in the location. So I will be getting another beating. So both were my leadership cards and sadly I got beat up and this card is going to go away. So Captain America health is not looking very good. He's down to 1 card only. But sadly Hulk was in the location of Crossbone, and Crossbone is a heavy hitter as well. It deals 2 damage to each hero. So Hulk immediately loses 2 cards of his, and now he's left with 1 playing card in his hand. Captain America is down to 1 health and Hulk is down to 1 health. So not a good turn for heroes. Then the other thing that's going to be important here is that each card is going to show additional location, that by whatever the villain is doing, more disturbed civilians are coming out and they are becoming in danger. They are coming in danger to the people. So what's going to happen is in the same location, it's always going to show the orientation, where is the villain, and then on its left hand side and right hand side what's going to happen. So on the left hand and right hand, 1 more civilian is going to come. So luckily, phew, we still had space here. Over here, 1 more civilian is going to come. But on this space, 2 civilians were supposed to come. So that's the first civilian. And when the second civilian was supposed to come, we have no more space left for the civilian to come. So what's going to happen? an overflow just happened. So whenever an overflow happens, we have to refer to the villain. So if a civilian or a thug token cannot be added to the location, increase the fear track by 1 for each token you couldn't add. So I couldn't add one more token and the fear has increased. That civilian came out and he saw a rush of people. He was so afraid. He ran away from that location and he's just now spreading fear everywhere that don't go anywhere near to this location. So that's how the fear track is going to increase. So not a good turn for heroes. But anyway, you understand how this game is going to now work. At least you have seen a sample round of both the heroes and the villains. Now the heroes' turn is going to come again and they will be now playing again and trying to curtail the location. So right now they will try to reprioritize. This location is going in overflow. So let's try to prioritize saving civilians. One of the actions of those star action is not only to waste. My mistake, one of the things I said was that the star is going to go to waste. It can be used to actually save civilians as well. So that civilian could have been saved, and that's how you save the civilians, using star, that is heroic actions. Using your heroic actions, you can save civilians. You'll be punching thugs, trying to save overflow, and then trying to complete these at least 2 of these missions so that you can make him vulnerable. So what does happen once you clear up one of the missions? So for example, if we were able to clear this, then an ability, let me move this aside, then an ability gets unlocked here which says villain acts after every 2 hero attacks. So right now after every 3 hero turns, the villain is attacking. But from now on, what's going to start is that after every 2 turns, the villain is going to take a turn. After every 2 turns, villain will turn. 2 turns will, so villain is going to become more angry and he's going to take a lot more turns from now on. But once you complete another objective or another mission, the villain becomes vulnerable, which means now you can start beating him up. He has a certain health, and based upon how many number of characters you are playing with or players are playing, so 2, 3, 4, there is a health mentioned here. So you are going to play with that much health, and that's how you're going to beat him up. But if you're able to actually unlock the third one as well, then each hero immediately draws 1 card. So this is one of the ways that you can refresh your hand limit or increase your hand limit back to slightly bigger. So if you were down to 1 card, at least for that turn, at least for that duration, you're going to have now 2 cards back in your hand. Or even if you had 3 cards in your hand, now you will have 4 cards by default in your hand. So that can be really open up more options, which is going to become more and more powerful and useful, because many times you just need one more move or two damage to a person to get the threat out of the way before this villain takes turn. And those are the kind of decisions that you will be taking, that okay, I'm going close to the villain moves this much spaces maximum. Do I want to go close to him? What's the nature of the villain? What is he going to use? Many times the villains are going to give threats, which are these tokens, to the heroes, and based upon how many threat tokens are going to be there, the fear track is going to get increased. Each villain is going to have its own mechanisms that you are going to deal with, and that adds the mean variety to the game. So in my opinion, this is not the heroes that add variety, even though the heroes have slight mechanics, but it's the villains which are going to add a lot of variety and modularity to the setup of the game and how this game is going to be played. So the game comes in this incredible insert, which is useful for you for storing all your cards, even though the center section is for tokens. But well, that's not something I like when all the tokens get mixed up together. So I'm using some baggies to actually hold them in one place, and not all the tokens you will be able to fit if you're using bags in one place. So you might have to use some of the spaces at the bottom space of the cards. But there are other miniatures. Of course, I painted my miniature. So there is Wasp, there is Black Widow, Iron Man, you have Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, These are the heroes other than Captain America and Hulk which are going to come with the game. There are three villains. You have seen Red Skull, but there is going to be Taskmaster and Ultron as well. So these are the villains that are going to come in the base game with all their special unique cards. Every hero is going to have unique cards. All the characters are going to be chibi cards, and the artwork is fantastic. You're going to love, the kids are going to love the artwork of this one. So let's go back and tell you my final thoughts. Now, I did give you some of my thoughts about the artwork and the figures in this one, which are super cute. So I wanted to show them up close. That's why I'll have already shown you those. I won't be discussing that now. Coming to the amount of content in the box, which is, I think, is going to be the limiting factor for Marvel United. Now, the main variety, as I've said, comes through the villains themselves rather than the heroes. The heroes feel kind of sameish. Doesn't matter really which hero you pick, because there is only two cards of each hero, well, two cards of each hero which are the same card, which give them their unique ability, and I don't think that's enough. These superheroes are really unique in the Marvel universe, but in this game they are just down to simple, oh, punch, move, punch, move, punch, move, and do a heroic action. That's it. So majority of the time they will be doing that, and only seldom you will see that heroic ability, the special ability card, which is going to let you do what the special ability of the character is going to do. So it really doesn't matter for majority of the game which character you have picked for the game, even though the number of symbols for each character, yes, are different, but in the overall grand scheme of things, since you will be picking up some random cards, 4 random cards at a time or 3 random cards at a time, accordingly you will be just limited to those options. So it really doesn't matter unless the cards were really unique. The other thing, so it's the villains which are going to carry the game, because they are going to be the cornerstone of the variety in this game, and they do bring a lot of variety. I just wish that there were more threat cards for each of the villains that were presented, because each villain is going to have exactly 6 threat cards for exactly 6 locations that you're going to play with, which means that once you have seen the threat cards of each villain, you exactly know what they're going to do. I would have wished that actually there were more, so that in each game when you shuffled and used some threat cards, you don't know if a henchman was going to appear or not. You don't know what they are going to do this time. So that kind of variability is lacking. But again, for those additional villains and additional things, well, they have the expansion. Overall, the game is very simple. Is it going to be fun? Yes, it is fun. Is it simple? Yes, it is very simple. So even kids can play it, even though initially some of the things might seem daunting, that okay, we have to complete the missions and the threats. If you don't clear up the threats, what happens? What are thugs, civilians? How do you save them? But when you actually play the game, then you say, well, it's not a meaty game at all. This is very simple. So maybe the better way of explaining the game is just to play a round and tell them what to do. And once they play just one round, they would have picked it up. So my recommendation for this game, don't even explain. Whatever I spent 20 minutes, for example, explaining, you don't need to go through all of that. Just let people play, and this is such a game that anyone can pick it up as long as they are a fan of Marvel games and their Marvel franchise and co-op games. Then this is sure going to be a hit for them, especially if they have younger kids. Now, if you're looking for a meatier, thinky, strategic game, then this is not going to be it. It's simple, but it delivers what it was supposed to promise. If it were super detailed miniatures of realistic things, then this might not have matched the gameplay which is being presented here. Now, the chibi look of this game is automatically giving it a more childish, a more friendlier look. So automatically you will have the understanding that which market it is going to target for. So adults can enjoy this game with their kids as well, which is a great feat in my opinion. So if you have kids, that's 2 thumbs up from me for this game. And if you do like it, then there are many more expansions for you to delve into with Marvel United, which are going to expand the variety which is so lacking in the base game. So but even if you want to just try out the base game. It's an inexpensive game, so no harm in trying it out, enjoying just the base game, and then maybe you want to go further into this universe, or maybe you say, well, that was enough for me, so I'll move on to something else. It's a very cheap entry point for this one, which makes it really friendly to for people to enter, not only from a gameplay but from a price point as well. So nothing not to love here. So everything is recommended. That's it for me. Happy gaming.